6 months passed quickly. On the newly constructed Unity Plaza in Corvin, crowds gathered to watch the ceremony marking the formal alliance between Earth and Vexilla Prime. The plaza featured a striking monument, two hands reaching toward each other, one human, one Vexillian, cast in gleaming metal. Admiral Susan Reynolds stood at the ceremonial platform, wearing her dress uniform with its rows of medals. Beside her stood Drav Torn, the new High Counselor of Vexilla, who had risen to leadership after the political upheaval following Zixfar's trial. Today marks not an ending, but a beginning, Drav Torn announced to the gathered crowd and the cameras broadcasting across both worlds. Our people step forward together as equals, as partners, as friends. The crowd applauded, a mix of Vexillians and the small human delegation. Among them stood John Carter, now officially recognized as Earth's ambassador to the galactic hegemony, with full voting rights. Reynolds and Drav Torn signed the alliance treaty with ceremonial pens. Then, following ancient Vexillian tradition, they exchanged weapons, Reynolds presenting a historic Earth sword, while Drav Torn offered a traditional Vexillian energy blade. "Let these weapons never be used against each other," Drav Torn said, completing the ritual phrase. After the ceremony, Reynolds joined a private reception with Vexillian military leaders. The mood was relaxed but curious. General Corvan, who had replaced the disgraced Admiral Keslar, approached her with a drink. "A successful day, Admiral," he said, raising his glass. "Though I admit, many of us still have questions." "That's natural," Reynolds replied. "Ask away." "How did you do it?" "Truly," Corvan asked, lowering his voice. "Your species has been in space for barely a century. You only joined the hegemony 5 years ago. Yet you developed technology that could bypass our best defenses and weapons that could disable our systems with surgical precision." Reynolds smiled slightly. "Necessity, General. Earth has a long history of smaller forces defeating larger ones through innovation and unconventional thinking. But the resources required, the research, the secrecy. From the moment we learned we weren't alone in the universe, we prepared for the possibility that not everyone out there would be friendly," Reynolds explained. "We studied every piece of alien technology we could access. We reverse-engineered what we found. We improved upon it." Corvan looked impressed, all while appearing to be simple newcomers to the galactic community. "Sometimes appearing weak when you are strong is the best strategy," Reynolds said. "We hoped never to need our secret projects. We genuinely sought peaceful relations, but we also remembered our history. Peace is best maintained when all sides respect each other's strength." Across the room, Lieutenant Grace Howard chatted with Era, who had become a key diplomat in the new government. Both women had worked closely during the transition, forging a genuine friendship. "What will happen to Zixfar?" Howard asked. "He will serve his sentence in the outer colony of Narek," Ira replied. 30 years of public service. Most believe he escaped a much harsher punishment because of the new human-Vexillian friendship." Howard nodded. "And you? Was it difficult to testify against him?" "It was necessary," Ira said simply. "My loyalty is to truth and to my people, not to one man's ambition." As the reception continued, John Carter stepped onto a balcony for a moment of quiet. He looked up at the night sky, where stars shone brightly. Among them, human ships now moved freely, respected rather than merely tolerated. His communication device chimed softly. It was a message from Earth's president. "Council vote successful. Earth granted full membership status in galactic hegemony. All trade restrictions lifted. Congratulations." John smiled. 6 months ago, Earth had faced extinction at the hands of an arrogant alien councilman. Now humanity stood as equals among the stars, not through conquest, but through preparation, intelligence, and the calculated demonstration of strength. In the galactic hegemony's Great Hall, representatives from dozens of species now viewed the human delegates with new eyes, not as primitive newcomers, but as a force to be respected and perhaps even feared a little. A new saying had begun to spread among diplomatic circles, whispered when humans weren't present: threaten Earth at your peril. They're always 3 steps ahead. Zixvar paced in his private chambers, rage building with each step. His personal guards had been replaced with Council security forces. For his protection, they claimed. He knew better. He was being watched, not protected. Outside his window, he could see one of the human ships still hanging in the sky, a constant reminder of his failure. 3 days had passed since the humans had revealed their true strength, and his world had changed completely. His communication device chimed. He answered to find the face of Admiral Keslar, his strongest military ally. "Have you secured the support I requested?" Zixvar asked without greeting. The Admiral looked uncomfortable. "Councilman, I must inform you that I cannot proceed with our discussed plans." "What?" "We agreed." "The situation has changed," Keslar interrupted. "The military command will not support any action against the Council's decisions. You coward. The humans have frightened you with tricks and illusions." The Admiral's expression hardened. "This morning, I was approached by Lieutenant Howard of Earth." Zixvar's heart sank. How did the humans know about his planned coup? "She provided evidence," the Admiral continued, "of your private deals with weapons manufacturers, of bribes paid to military officials, of falsified intelligence about Earth's capabilities." "Lies," Zixvar hissed. "The documentation was extensive and verified by our own security systems. It included recordings of our private conversations about overthrowing the Council." The Admiral's voice grew cold. "You used us, Councilman. You pushed for war to increase your own wealth and power." The communication ended abruptly. Zixvar threw the device against the wall, shattering it. He had to escape before the Council formalized charges against him. He quickly packed a small bag with valuables and activated his personal emergency beacon. A loyal shuttle pilot waited at a private landing pad. If he could reach the outer colonies, he could disappear. When he opened his chamber door, he found Ira standing there. Her expression was a mixture of sadness and determination. "Going somewhere, husband?" she asked quietly. "You don't understand," he said, trying to push past her. "The humans have manipulated everything. I must reach our allies in the colonies to organize resistance." Ira blocked his path. "There will be no resistance, Zixvar. The Council has seen the truth. I have seen the truth. You too," he snarled. "Have the humans bewitched everyone?" "The humans didn't create false records of your corruption," she said evenly. "They merely found what was already there and shared it with those who needed to know." He gripped her shoulders. "Let me pass, Ira, for the years we shared, if nothing else." "Those years were built on lies," she replied, pulling away from him. "I believe you wanted what was best for our people. Instead, you wanted only power for yourself." A noise behind him made Zixvar turn. To his shock, Lieutenant Grace Howard stood there with 4 Vexillian security officers. "How did you get in here?" he demanded. Howard smiled slightly. "Your security systems aren't as good as you think. We've had access to your private residence for weeks." "Councilman Zixvar," said the lead security officer, "by order of the High Council, you are under arrest for corruption, conspiracy to commit treason, and inciting war under false pretenses." Zixvar looked desperately for escape, but there was none. As the security officers approached with restraints, he made a final desperate lunge toward his desk, where a hidden weapon was stored. Howard moved with surprising speed, intercepting him with a precise strike that sent him sprawling to the floor. For a human woman half his size, her strength was shocking. "Don't make this worse for yourself," she said calmly, standing over him. As they led him away in restraints, Ira watched with sad eyes. "Why, Zixvar? We had everything. Respect, position, comfort. Why risk it all for more?" He had no answer for her. In the hallway, Zixvar saw human ambassador John Carter speaking with the head counselor. Both turned to watch as he was led past in chains. The council will convene tomorrow for your formal hearing, the head counselor told him. All evidence will be presented publicly. This isn't over, Zixbar growled. John Carter's expression showed no triumph, only a certain weariness. Actually, Councilman, it is. Your fleet has stood down. Your allies have abandoned you. Your corruption has been exposed. Sometimes the wisest path is accepting when you've lost. 3 days passed in a haze of emergency meetings, failed system restarts, and growing public unrest on Vexilla Prime. The power had returned as promised after 6 hours, but trust in the government had not. Citizens gathered in the streets, demanding answers about how humans had so easily bypassed their defenses. In orbit, the 5 human ships remained, silent and watchful. The Vexillian military had considered attacking them once systems came back online, but the head counselor himself had forbidden it. We do not yet understand what we are facing, he had said. Now, on the landing pad of the council building, a small human shuttle descended from one of the orbiting vessels. The gathered Vexillian officials shifted nervously as the craft's doors opened. John Carter stepped out first, now dressed in a formal military uniform with diplomatic insignia. Behind him came Dr. Peter Martinez, a thin man carrying a data tablet, and 4 human security officers whose hands never strayed far from their weapons. Ambassador Carter, the head counselor, greeted him, deliberately ignoring his new military uniform. The council welcomes you back to Vexilla Prime. Thank you, head counselor, John replied. I believe you know why we're here. The grand meeting hall was tense when they entered. All council members were present, but Zixvar had been moved from his prominent position to a lower seat at the end of the table. His face showed barely controlled anger. Once everyone was seated, John stood to address the council. 3 days ago, we demonstrated a fraction of Earth's defensive capabilities. Today, we wish to discuss a new relationship between our worlds. Zixvar could not contain himself. Your attack was an act of war. You violated our sovereignty. John looked at him calmly. Much like threatening to destroy Earth was an act of war, Councilman. We merely responded to your aggression with a proportional demonstration. The head counselor raised a hand for silence. Ambassador, we have questions. How did your ships evade our sensors? How did you disable our power systems so precisely? John nodded to Dr. Martinez, who stood. I am Dr. Peter Martinez, Chief Science Officer of Earth's Defense Force. What you witnessed was a targeted EMP weapon designed specifically for Vexillian technology. Impossible, said the Science Minister. You couldn't have sufficient knowledge of our systems. Dr. Martinez smiled slightly. We've been studying Vexillian technology since our first contact with the hegemony. Your species isn't as careful with its secrets as you believe. He activated his tablet, projecting schematics into the air. Your power systems have a unique vulnerability in their quantum stabilizers. Your sensors have blind spots at specific energy frequencies. We simply exploited these facts. Murmurs spread through the council. But there's more you should know, Martinez continued. His projection changed to show biological data, Vexillian DNA sequences, and cellular structures. We've also extensively studied Vexillian biology. The room grew very quiet. Earth has faced existential threats before, and we've learned to prepare for the worst, Martinez said. In our laboratories, we've developed targeted bioweapons that could affect only Vexillian physiology, leaving all other species unharmed. These could be deployed via your own atmosphere processors within days. You're bluffing, Zixbar said, but his voice lacked conviction. Martinez changed the projection again, showing simulated results of such an attack. The weapons would target specialized respiratory proteins unique to Vexillians. Death would be painless but swift. This is monstrous, the medical minister exclaimed. Yes, it would be, John said, stepping forward again. Which is why we have no intention of using these weapons. They exist only as deterrents, ensuring that no one ever again threatens Earth with extinction. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each council member. We don't want war. We don't want domination. We want what we've always wanted: peaceful cooperation, fair trade, mutual respect. The head counselor studied John carefully. If what you say is true, humans are far more dangerous than we understood. Not dangerous, John corrected. Cautious. There's a difference. Earth has seen too many wars, too much destruction. We value peace, but we will defend ourselves. What are your terms? The head counselor asked. Equal diplomatic status within the hegemony, fair trade agreements, military non-aggression pacts, and, John looked directly at Sixbar, accountability for those who advocated attacking Earth. All eyes in the room turned to Sixbar, who suddenly seemed very small in his seat. In the grand meeting hall of the Vexillian High Council, Zixvar stood proudly before his peers. Holographic displays showed the gathered fleet, over 200 warships preparing to jump to the Earth system. The humans have not responded to our demands, Zixvar announced. As expected, they require a demonstration of our power. The fleet will depart tomorrow at dawn. An older counselor named Dravtorn raised his hand. Have we exhausted all diplomatic options? The Eldkar faction suggests. The time for talk is over, Zixbar interrupted. The humans must learn. A young aide rushed into the chamber, breaking all protocol. Councilman, urgent news. The council members murmured in disapproval at this breach of etiquette. What is the meaning of this? Zixvar demanded. Unknown vessels have appeared in orbit, the aide said, breathing hard. 5 ships. They're not responding to hails. Impossible, said the defense minister. Our early warning system would have detected any approach. Suddenly, the massive view screen on the wall activated by itself. The face that appeared caused a collective gasp. It was Admiral Susan Reynolds of Earth. Greetings, Vexillian Council, she said calmly. I apologize for the unexpected visit, but your councilman Zixvar left us little choice. Zixvar stepped forward, rage evident on his face. How dare you? How did you penetrate our defenses? Reynolds ignored him, addressing the full council instead. 7 days ago, your representative threatened the extinction of our species. Today, we demonstrate why that was a mistake. The defense minister was frantically checking readings on his personal device. The ships appeared out of nowhere. They're using some kind of technology we've never seen. Your sensors didn't detect us because we didn't want them to, Reynolds continued, just as they didn't detect our team on Korath Moon 3 days ago, or our scouts mapping your system last month. Stunned silence fell over the chamber. You threatened the extinction of our species, Reynolds repeated. Now witness why that was a mistake. The screen split to show a view of the 5 human ships in orbit. They were sleek, dark vessels with no visible weapons or engines. Each was smaller than even the smallest Vexillian cruiser. We have no wish for war, Reynolds said, but neither will we be subjugated. The following demonstration will affect only military installations and government facilities. No civilians will be harmed. Before anyone could respond, the 5 ships emitted a pulse of blue energy that spread like a wave across the planet's northern continent, where most of Vexilla's military command and government buildings were located. In the council chamber, the lights flickered and died. Emergency generators kicked in seconds later, but outside, the city of Corvin had gone completely dark. Through the windows, council members could see all power had failed across the capital. What have you done? Zixvar demanded. A targeted electromagnetic pulse, Reynolds explained. Harmless to living beings, but quite effective against technology. Your military command centers, weapon systems, and government facilities across the northern continent will remain disabled for approximately 6 hours. The defense minister looked up from his device, face pale. All planetary defenses in the northern hemisphere are offline. Our orbital platforms are not responding. The fleet has lost contact with command. This is an act of war, Zixvar shouted. No, Reynolds replied calmly. This is a conversation between equals. In 3 days, Ambassador John Carter will return to your world to discuss new terms for our relationship, as partners, not master and servant." The screen went dark. Outside, the citizens of Corvin looked up to see the 5 human ships still hanging in orbit, silent sentinels against the orange sky. In the council chamber, all eyes turned to Sixvar. His political allies moved away from him, creating a visible circle of isolation. How could humans possess such technology? Someone whispered. "They're barely a century into their space age," another added. The head counselor stood slowly, his ancient face grim. "Councilman Zixvar, you assured us the humans were primitive and divided. You claimed they could not resist us. Explain yourself." The moon of Vexilla Prime, called Korath, was a barren, cratered world. Its only value was strategic. It housed the main sensor array that monitored all traffic in the Vexillian system. The facility was built into the largest crater, protected by energy shields and automated defense systems. Major Kevin Walsh watched the facility through enhanced binoculars from 3 miles away. His combat suit matched the gray rock perfectly, making him nearly invisible. The thin atmosphere meant sound didn't travel, which helped their mission but required oxygen masks for the team. "All in position," came Lieutenant Grace Howard's voice through his earpiece. "Ready when you are, Major." Walsh checked his tactical display. 4 green dots showed his team members in place around the facility. "Remember, non-lethal only," he said quietly. "We're here to blind them, not start a war." "Copy that," Howard replied. She was the team's tech specialist, former NASA engineer before joining military intelligence. "Jamming device is set. On your mark." Walsh took a deep breath. This mission had been planned for months, but actually being here, on an alien moon, about to attack an alien facility, it still felt unreal. "Execute," he said. The jamming device activated, creating a bubble that blocked all communications from the facility. At the same time, Walsh and his team moved forward, using small personal jetpacks to bound across the lunar surface in long, low arcs. The facility's outer gate was guarded by 2 Vexillians in environmental suits. Before they could react to the communication failure, Walsh and Sergeant Paul Miller landed silently behind them. They used specialized stun weapons designed specifically for Vexillian physiology. Both guards collapsed without raising an alarm. "Main entrance secure," Walsh reported. "Moving inside." Lieutenant Howard quickly bypassed the security lock using a device Dr. Grant had created based on stolen Vexillian technology. The door slid open, and the team moved inside. The interior was lit with blue lights that cast strange shadows. The airlock sealed behind them, and atmospheric sensors in their suits confirmed they could remove their masks inside. "We have 20 minutes before they notice the communication blackout and send someone to check," Howard said, checking her watch. Heading to the main control room. They moved through empty corridors. The facility was mostly automated, with minimal staff during standard operations. The few Vexillians they encountered were quickly subdued with stun weapons. In the main control room, 3 Vexillian technicians turned in surprise as the humans entered. They reached for alarm controls but were stunned before they could react. "Clear," Walsh said. "Howard, you're up." Lieutenant Howard moved to the main console. She connected a small device to the Vexillian computer system. "Beginning data extraction now," she said, "also uploading the virus that will corrupt their tracking algorithms." Walsh stood guard at the door while Sergeant Miller and Corporal Steve Rogers secured the unconscious Vexillians. "This place gives me the creeps," Rogers said quietly. "Everything's built for someone taller than us." "Focus," Walsh replied. "How's it coming, Howard?" 30% complete, she said, watching code scroll across her device. "Their security is good, but not as good as they think. I'm finding all kinds of useful information here." Walsh nodded. "Copy any tactical data on their fleet. Admiral Reynolds will want to know their exact capabilities." "Already on it," Howard said. "I'm also finding something interesting. Looks like internal communications. There's some disagreement among their leadership about this Earth operation. Not everyone supports Zixvar's aggressive approach. That could be useful, Walsh said. Flag it for intelligence. The minutes ticked by as Howard worked. Finally, her device beeped. Download complete. Virus uploaded. Their system will show everything as normal, but the data will be corrupted. Any ships approaching from Earth's direction will be invisible to their sensors for at least 48 hours. Good work, Walsh said. He touched his communication device. Command, this is Walsh. Phase 1 complete. Proceeding to extraction point. A voice came through his earpiece. Admiral Reynolds herself. Excellent work, Major. Phase 2 is authorized. The fleet is moving into position. As they prepared to leave, Howard paused at the console. Should I leave any message? Let them know we were here. Walsh considered this. No. Let them wonder what happened when everything starts going wrong. The team slipped back out of the facility, leaving no trace of their presence except the unconscious guards and the invisible virus now spreading through the Vexillian defense network. Zixvar stood on the balcony of his estate, looking out over the gleaming city of Corvin, capital of Vexilla Prime. Purple spires rose into the orange sky, connected by transport tubes where hover vehicles raced between buildings. In the distance, the twin moons were visible even in daylight. He felt a presence behind him and turned to see his mate, Era. Unlike most Vexillians, she wore simple clothes with few decorations, a habit from her days as a scholar before their joining. The High Council was impressed with your handling of the humans, she said softly. They've approved military preparations. Zixvar's mouth formed the ridge-lifting expression of satisfaction. As expected. The Eldkar faction opposed it, of course. They believed negotiations would be more effective. Negotiations, with creatures barely out of their planetary cradle. Zixvar scoffed. The humans need to learn their place in the galactic order. They'll thank us for our guidance eventually. Era moved to stand beside him at the balcony rail. I studied their history, husband. Humans don't respond well to threats. All species respond to power, he replied dismissively. The humans are divided by national borders, old rivalries, and resource disputes. They present a united front to the hegemony, but their alliance is fragile. Once we demonstrate our overwhelming strength, their leaders will compete to submit to us first. Era seemed unconvinced. Their wars have been frequent but instructive. They adapt quickly, find weaknesses, exploit advantages. Their military doctrines are creative. Zixvar laughed. Their ships are primitive. Their weapons are inefficient. Their defenses are obvious. He touched a control on his wrist device, bringing up a holographic display of Earth's known military assets. Our scans detected nothing that could threaten even our smallest battle cruiser. Perhaps they hide their true capabilities. From our sensors, Zixvar said with amusement. Impossible. No species can hide from Vexillian technology. A soft chime interrupted them. Zixvar answered the call on his communication device. Councilman, said a military officer, Fleet Admiral Jektor requests your presence at Command Central. The deployment plans require your approval. I'll be there shortly, Zixvar replied. He turned to Era. In 5 days, I will address the human ambassador again. In 6 days, our fleet will enter their system. In 7 days, Earth will be ours. And if they resist, Era asked quietly, then they will learn why no one defies the Vexillian Empire. As Zixvar departed for his meeting, Era returned to her private study. Unlike her husband's ostentatious office, her space was filled with books and artifacts from dozens of worlds. She activated her research terminal and continued reviewing Earth's military history. The Battle of Thermopylae, the defeat of the Spanish Armada, guerrilla warfare tactics, asymmetric conflicts throughout human history, where smaller forces had defeated larger ones. The humans had a talent for unconventional thinking that worried her. On the other side of the Capitol, in the Planetary Defense Center, a junior sensor operator named Mikval frowned at his screen. For the third time that day, he had detected an unusual energy spike at the edge of the system. Protocol required him to report it. "Sir," he called to his supervisor, "I'm detecting anomalous readings in Sector 7. The supervisor glanced at the screen briefly. "Another sensor ghost. The equipment needs recalibration." "But sir, the pattern is consistent with—" "Enough," the supervisor interrupted. "We're preparing for the Earth operation. Don't waste time on equipment glitches. Clear the alert and continue standard monitoring." Mikval hesitated, then cleared the alert as ordered. He made a personal note of the readings but said nothing more. The strange energy signature faded from his screen, leaving no trace of its existence. In the darkness beyond Vexilla's outer planets, a small vessel with no running lights adjusted its position slightly. Inside, Major Kevin Walsh checked his equipment one last time before activating the stealth systems. Phase 1 of Operation Silent Thunder had begun. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Susan Reynolds paced the length of the dimly lit war room. Screens along the walls showed Earth's defense grid, satellite positions, and the status of fleets both public and secret. She stopped pacing when the heavy blast doors slid open. John Carter entered, still wearing his diplomatic uniform. His face looked tired after the emergency shuttle flight from the orbital station. "They're moving faster than we expected," John said, nodding to the others gathered around the circular table. "HFY gave us 7 days before they expect our surrender." Admiral Reynolds gestured for him to take a seat. "Then we have 6 days to prepare our answer." Around the table sat Earth's Defense Council. General Frank Miller of the Space Force rubbed his gray mustache nervously. Dr. Olivia Grant, head of the Advanced Technologies Division, reviewed data on her tablet. Commander Alan Price of Intelligence Operations remained stone-faced, his fingers tapping silently on the table edge. "Play the full recording," Reynolds ordered. A holographic display appeared above the table, showing John's meeting with the Galactic Council. Everyone watched in silence as HFY made his threats. When the recording ended, the room stayed quiet for several seconds. "He means it," Commander Price said finally. "The Vexillians have subjugated 3 other worlds in the past century using exactly these tactics. Threats, demands, then invasion when the planet is still reeling from the ultimatum." Dr. Grant looked up from her tablet. "Their technology is more advanced than ours in propulsion and energy weapons, but we've made progress they don't know about." She touched the controls on the table, and the holographic display changed to show schematics for ships and weapon systems. "Project Thunderbolt is ready," she said. "We've successfully reverse-engineered their faster-than-light drive and improved it. Our version uses 30% less energy and leaves almost no radiation signature." General Miller leaned forward. "What about defenses? The Vexillian fleet outnumbers ours 10-1. "We don't need to match their numbers," Dr. Grant replied. She brought up another schematic. "This is the EMP-X weapon. It can disable their ships without destroying them. We've tested it against captured Vexillian technology. It works." John looked surprised. "When did we capture their technology?" Commander Price smiled slightly. "We have friends in the hegemony. Not everyone appreciates Vexillian bullying." Admiral Reynolds stopped the display with a wave of her hand. "Here's what we know about the Vexillians. They're arrogant. They believe their technology is superior. They've never faced serious resistance. And most importantly, they don't understand humans." She brought up an image of Vexilla Prime, the alien homeworld, a beautiful planet with purple oceans and green landmasses. "They think we'll either surrender or fight a conventional war and lose," she continued. "But humanity has 5,000 years of warfare experience. We've learned a few things about fighting stronger enemies." "Operation Silent Thunder," Commander Price said quietly. Reynolds nodded. "A surgical strike at their heart. Not to destroy, but to demonstrate. Show them exactly what we can do. then open negotiations from a position of respect, not fear. Dr. Grant looked concerned. If we activate Silent Thunder, we reveal capabilities we've kept hidden for years. The entire hegemony will know what we're capable of. Better that than becoming slaves, General Miller growled. Admiral Reynolds looked at each person around the table. We need a unanimous decision. This could save Earth or doom it. One by one, they nodded, though some with clear reluctance. Then it's settled, Reynolds said. She opened a secure channel on the communication system. This is Admiral Reynolds. Authorization code Sierra Tango 946. Activate Silent Thunder Protocol. Deploy the Ghost Fleet to these coordinates. She entered a string of numbers. Teams Epsilon and Delta will insert here, Commander Price added, marking locations around Vexilla Prime. They'll need at least 12 hours to disable the early warning systems. John Carter watched these preparations with mixed feelings. He had worked for peace between species, but now they were preparing for war. No, he reminded himself. Not war. A demonstration. Humanity didn't want to fight, but neither would they bow to threats. Reynolds turned to him. Ambassador, we'll need you to return to the Council in 6 days. By then, everything will be in position. John Carter adjusted his tie as the massive doors to the Galactic Hegemony Council chamber slid open. The room was circular, with elevated platforms where representatives from dozens of alien species sat watching. The air smelled faintly of ozone and strange spices. John kept his face neutral despite his racing heart. This was his first time representing Earth before the full council. 5 years had passed since humans discovered they weren't alone in the universe. 5 years of cautious diplomacy, technology exchanges, and learning the complex rules of interstellar politics. Earth was still the new kid on the block, barely given a seat at the lowest tier of the chamber. Ambassador Carter of Earth, you have been summoned to hear the concerns of Councilman Zixbar of Vexilla, announced a tall, thin alien with blue skin. John nodded respectfully and walked to the center of the chamber. He looked up at the Vexillian representative. Zixvar was imposing even by his species standards. His purple-scaled skin gleamed under the lights, and the bone ridges above his yellow eyes gave him a permanent look of disdain. Thank you for this audience, honored Councilman, John said. Zixvar didn't acknowledge the greeting. Earth has become problematic, he said, his translator giving his words a metallic quality. Your mining operations in your solar system's asteroid belt have expanded beyond your allocated quotas. Your ships travel through designated lanes without proper identification. Your communications networks refuse to integrate with hegemony standards. John maintained his diplomatic smile. We're addressing these concerns, Councilman. As a new member. Silence, Zixbar interrupted. The Vexillian Empire has watched Earth with growing concern. You breed too quickly. You adapt too readily. You ask too many questions. Murmurs spread through the chamber. John noticed representatives from some of the smaller worlds nodding in agreement. The hegemony has been too lenient with your species, Zixbar continued. The Vexillian Empire proposes new restrictions. Earth will reduce its population growth to approved levels. Earth will surrender its independent military vessels. Earth will provide tribute in the form of water, minerals, and biological specimens. John felt his face grow hot, but years of diplomatic training kept his expression calm. With respect, Councilman, these demands violate Earth's sovereignty rights under Article 7 of the Membership Charter. Zixvar's mouth stretched into what might have been a smile, revealing rows of pointed teeth. Articles can be amended when security concerns arise. I have the support of 3 High Council members on this matter. The room grew quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. With 3 High Council members backing him, Zixvar could push through almost any motion. And if Earth refuses these new terms? John asked. Zixvar leaned forward. Then perhaps Earth is not ready for membership in our civilized community. The Vexillian fleet could ensure compliance, or we could simply remove the problem. Several gasps echoed through the chamber. Threats of military action were rarely made so openly. You have 7 Earth days to accept these terms, HFY said. I suggest you use them wisely. John took a deep breath. He thought of the instructions from Earth Command, the contingency plans, the secret projects hidden beneath mountains and oceans. Councilman HFY, he said, his voice steady, Earth appreciates your concern for galactic stability. We will consider your proposals carefully. But I must remind this council that Earth joined the hegemony in good faith, as equals, not servants. Equals. HFY laughed, a harsh sound that made John's skin crawl. Your species only learned to split the atom a few centuries ago. My people were mapping stars when yours still lived in caves. John bowed slightly. History is filled with young species who surprise their elders. Councilman. 7 days, as you said. We will have our answer then. As John turned to leave, he subtly touched the small device in his pocket, pressing a sequence of 5 numbers. The emergency signal would reach Earth in minutes. HFY watched him go with smug satisfaction, unaware that he had just set in motion events that would forever change his world.